What's going on, everybody? This week's conversation I wanted to have about plateaus in a DJ's career. Now, plateau doesn't necessarily mean the very top of your career and that's all you achieve, but in anything creative, I think it's a battle of ups and downs, right? Where you can have really high points and be super hot and then eventually fall off a little bit. And that's where I think the challenge is, right? I got to think back to conversations I've had with DJ Crooked of the Road podcast. And one thing that resonates with me that he's always said is he's more interested in hearing a DJ's story once they've gone through some shit. Meaning, if you're just on the rise and you've hit a high point, but you haven't hit any of those bumps in the road yet, your story isn't really that interesting. But also, I think not only does it make a better story, but it also shows your it shows your passion for DJing or anything creative a little bit more. If you can get over that lull or that bump in the road and then get back up to where you were, even achieve a higher, plateau, it shows your resilience, it shows your work ethic, it shows a little bit of humility. There's so much more to gain from hitting that bump in the road than it is to have a meteoric rise and that's it. I think a lot of DJs that I've seen have come and gone. I've been doing this a while at many levels, right? At the highest level, at like a grinder, plays 3, 4, 5 nights a week kind of thing. It's apparent in every facet of DJing, right? Where there's DJs that are newer, that come into the scene, hit their stride, but something happens, either something they do or musical tastes change, or there's an infinite amount of things that can happen, right? And there's a fall off. At that point, a DJ can do one of two things. Either, actually, I would say three things. A DJ can just give up. A DJ can blame everybody but themselves and not make any adjustments. Or a DJ can put their head down, keep grinding, keep working, and figure out what they can do to get out of that slump and out of that bump in the road. And I will say that I attribute a lot of the longevity of my career to being able to make those adjustments and having that self-reflection to know what I need to change in the way I DJ, who I need to network with, and also, and most importantly, take a look back at what happened and why things kind of shifted, right? Now, for an example, when I first moved to Vegas, I was still traveling to DJ different markets quite a bit. Maybe every month, maybe every other month, I would fly to, New York or back home to LA or Seattle or any of those places. But as the market shifted, it didn't make sense for me to travel as much, just because of time investment, money investment, how much, what rate I was getting to fly out to these places. And at least internally, it felt like I hit a plateau because this was the era of the traveling open format DJ going to different markets and killing it. And you see DJs in and out of town every week, every other week. And I went from that to just kind of falling back into just doing my residencies here in Vegas. And it was DJ Conflict's podcast where he predicted correctly that as the market was shifting, it would be more important to hold down your home market and really lock in and lock down residencies there. And when he first started saying that, it was kind of harder to believe because, what you saw on social media and what I guess from the outside looking in, the way it looked to be a traveling DJ, it was just such a high, right? And playing at home all the time, you didn't get the amount of exposure, you didn't get the amount of like content to be in different places all the time. But, he was right. And at the time, I felt kind of defeated because I was like, man, I didn't do what it took to push my rate up enough to, maintain my traveling schedule. But at the same time, too, it was a little bit of perfect timing because budgets were shrinking just as I was, reaching that level of being able to travel and, being sought after in other markets. And I could have taken this any of the three ways that I described, right? There was a period of time where I was like, man, this kind of sucks. Like when people would ask, oh, where are you traveling next? Or do you have any, out of town gigs planned? I just had to kind of swallow my pride and be like, I don't. And that hurt to say, it hurts the pride a little bit, but in true fashion of being myself, I just kind of, put my head down, did the work, and made sure that I maintained and grew the kind of gigs that I could get here in town. And of course, I live in one of the biggest markets for DJs. I'm blessed to be able to do that. And it worked out, right? But I could have easily just started blaming a whole bunch of other factors other than myself and the timing. And I could have just stopped trying and stopped putting in the work and figuring it out, right? But for me, this is my livelihood. I have to pay my bills this way. I have a house to pay for, have a wonderful wife, have a family. So it kind of forced me to make that choice of like, hey, you might not be traveling as much. You might not seem as that big of a DJ as you were when you were traveling all the time, but get your shit together and get it done and put the work in. And I'm so glad that I ended up doing that. I'm blessed now where I'm at the point where when people come into town or planning to come into town that I know, I'm in a position now where I can book certain events and also maintain and grow the kind of gig schedule that I have. But if I gave up at that point where I thought I was falling off, it could have been completely different, right? I think it's very telling of a DJ what they do in those times of adversity. I think that you have to make that decision when you hit those points, and you can only make those decisions when you hit that point. Because you can say what you're going to do, but you never really know what you're going to do until you hit those points. And, I'm glad that I stuck it through. I'm glad that I put the work in, but it wasn't easy. I had to swallow my pride. I had to figure it out. I had to network. I had to do all these things, but I had a lot riding on it, right? My whole livelihood, putting food on the table and a roof over my head was dependent on me figuring it out. And for a lot of DJs that don't have those kind of stresses, maybe you don't have that monkey on your back that keeps pushing you forward, but you have to keep pushing forward if you want this to be what you do for work and what you do for money and what you do for your career. There's so many DJs that I've seen that choose the latter and just kind of fall off, and maybe they go into do something else and they could be completely successful in that, but they gave up on this because of many factors, but the main one being that they didn't face adversity they didn't face adversity and keep moving forward and keep believing in themselves to figure out what they could do to make their career get back on the upward trajectory. And I'm sure there's plenty of stories like that with all of you guys out there, and I'd love to hear them. Please, in the comments, leave those stories of adversity and how you overcame it. I'd love to read each and every one of them and respond to as many as I can. And I must say to all the DJs out there that might think that they've hit that plateau and fallen off a little bit, keep fighting, keep working, keep networking, and keep believing in yourself. Well, that's all I got for today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to this channel. And of course, if you're looking for more DJ related content, click on one of the videos right here, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.